Go.
All right, we are live with your host, James Hanson and Michael Schaefer. We kind of gave you a little sneak peek at our next season in our podcast with Vreeland the other day, which was awesome. You guys haven't checked it out yet, definitely check that one out. It's a really good one. How you doing today, Michael?
Pretty good. It's almost 5 o'clock and the Yankees are playing, and they're currently not losing last I checked.
Mets play at 7, so we didn't even announce a starter yet, so who knows what will happen. But they've won 3 in a row. And Lindor actually did something last night, so
yeah,
it's about time. But anyways, are you excited to talk about Nicaragua today?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, yeah.
This season's not good.
Me neither, but we've covered some bad seasons so far, so
yeah, it's not as bad as some that we've done.
We could see the redeeming qualities in it, if there is any. I think there's a couple, and then there's a couple things that just make this season, to me, towards the bottom. Like there's some major flaws with this season. So first of all, you watched this live, correct?
Yes.
Okay, like so did I. Heroes versus villains. I think it was the second half of my freshman year of high school. So this was my sophomore year of high school when Nicaragua aired. But I mean, I was at the peak of my Survivor fandom. I mean, not quite what I am now, but as I've said, I got away from watching the show. But at Heroes versus Villains, I was at the peak. I was so invested in the show. And then this season was kind of hard to get excited for after such a home run of a season. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like when you have a great season like Heroes versus Villains, it's always going to be like you can't top it, especially for newbie season. So it's like, can you at least get to somewhere where it's a good season? And it didn't even clear that bar.
So I was listening to something I remember a while back, the Nicaragua portion of Rob's countdown, and he said that he always thought it's just really hard to follow up a great all-star season. Like Vanuatu, some people might like it better than All-Stars, but it was not received well at the time, I don't think. And then we had Gabon after Fans versus Favorites, which you could clearly see the difference in the gameplay of those two seasons. So then here we have another one where it's just the follow-up of such a great season. It was going to be hard to live up to the hype.
But I also do think that obviously it sucked not having Survivor for the last year, but I think it's going to help the next season because was the next season going to top Winners at War?
No.
So I think getting the year off and with it coming back, it's going to have a lot of, okay, we're finally getting Survivor back. Even if it's a bad season, we're going to love it.
I agree. And I think we're at the point where although some of the recent seasons haven't been that good, I think their casting is much better than it was in this Nicaragua era. We saw the cast that were to follow and they were horrible. And I think this season might have led to I think they came up with that they were going to do Redemption Island probably during or before Nicaragua, but I think we saw a lot of returning seasons in the 20s, and I think this week all newbie cast might have led to some of those casting choices like sooner on. All right, so immediately, what was your initial thoughts though, like going into the season? Were you excited?
Well, yeah, I'm always excited when Survivor's back on, but it was definitely a feeling of, I don't know, is it going to be good? Because now you're crossing into the second decade of Survivor. Is it going to be, we going to get as good characters as we've seen before?
Mm-hmm. And quickly, we know right away that this is going to be an old versus young season, and I'm not a huge fan of that twist.
Yeah, neither am I.
And the only time I argue it worked was Millennials versus Gen X, and that's because once they swapped, you saw there wasn't a clear line drawn between the older people and the younger people, and I guess in this season there wasn't either with the swap, but it definitely the main problem I have is that the old tribe was all people over 40 and the young tribe was all people under 30.
Under 30.
So
where Millennials versus Gen X, I think The oldest member of the Millennials tribe was 32, and the youngest on the Gen X was 35. I think.
It was like Chris, I think, right? I think Chris
believe-
was the youngest.
or was it Ken?
It was either Ken or Chris. They were both pretty.
Whatever it was a lot closer. This season, Shannon was the oldest person on the on the younger tribe. He was 29, I believe, and Eve was the youngest of the older tribe. She was 41.
My other issue is like, so when you're in your 20s, you might not have the life experience. You don't know what you're going to expect when you get out there fully. Not at least not everyone. When you're in your 40s and 50s, physically, it's going to take a bigger toll on you. This cast was missing the whole age.
Everyone in the 30s.
39. So I think that's like the prime age of a good Survivor player too. And it was just, it's the old versus young is stupid.
Yep. I totally agree.
All right. So on the older tribe, we have Jimmy Johnson, Marty, Tyrone, Jimmy T. I'm trying to think of all the men, and Dan. Those are the 5 men, correct?
Yeah.
And then the women, we have Eve. I think her name is spelled with a Y, but it's Eve.
Yeah. Eve, Wendy,
Eve, Wendy,
Holly,
Jane, and
I'm blanking.
Holly. Jill.
Jill, right?
Dr. Jill. All right. So then the younger tribe, we have Fabio, Chase, Sash,
Shannon,
and Ben.
Benry.
And then with the woman, we have Brenda, Purple Kelly, Alina, Kelly B,
And
Nyanka. Okay. So honestly, the one thing I could say about this is there's some characters here.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be the best players, but rattling off of that list, generally, how many of those people would you say you liked?
I liked. Want me to name like who they were, or just give a number?
Just name who you liked. Yeah.
Marty, I
Okay.
liked. Brenda, I liked. He was a bit of a clown, but I did like Fabio.
Yeah.
Uh,
Those are my 3 favorites. So we're in
yeah,
agreement.
I can't really think of anyone else. The cast was kind of a
Yeah.
bit unlikable.
It was pretty unlikable. Like you had Nyanka, who, in my opinion, very unlikable. Sash, maybe the biggest snake to ever play the game. I couldn't stand that guy. And the fact that he thought he was playing like this dominant game the whole time, just
I loved how it happened at the end of the game.
he got what was coming for him for sure. Some of the older men, Jimmy T was kind of a wacko.
I liked Tyrone though.
Yeah, Tyrone was. He kind of got he got voted after the swap, right? So he kind of got swapped, dude. I really didn't like Jane. I don't know. She kind of annoyed me.
She was all right, but
I liked Holly better than Jane.
Yeah, so did I.
I think Holly was in maybe my number 4 favorite player in here. Benry got a weird edit, but he didn't seem like a horrible guy. I don't really get his edit.
Yeah,
he wasn't as invisible as Purple Kelly, but he was.
Oh God.
He was.
There's probably a tree there that got a better edit than Purple Kelly.
Yeah. And every time they gave her a confessional, they made her seem like the biggest idiot to ever play. Nothing she said was like had any sort of logic coming out of her mouth.
None.
All right, so let's get into it. First episode. So old versus young. With this, don't you think like there's gonna be a one tribe that kind of dominates? The younger tribe is at such an advantage.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Well, with the younger tribe is all the strength of the challenges. You have Dan on the older tribe who can't even walk on his 2 legs.
Yeah.
So, like, do you expect the older tribe to win challenges if he's like that?
Yeah, and then you had Jimmy Johnson. Though he played in the NFL, he's 67 years old, I think, at the time of this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those younger guys, I think every single one of them was pretty fit to win challenges.
Yeah, they were all pretty good.
Yeah, very solid.
I do think Jimmy Johnson might have gotten screwed by the old versus young twist. I think if he was on a tribe with some of these younger dudes, they kind of would have looked up to him. He might have stayed around longer.
I think they would have listened to his strategy. So very clearly from the first episode, we can get into it. Like we're talking about Jimmy Johnson now. His strategy was everybody knows who I am. I'm probably the most famous person to ever play Survivor. I think he probably is.
He probably is, yeah.
Yeah. And he knows, like, just take me as far as you can. I'm not going to beat you at the end. You know, everybody knows I don't need the money. And that was his strategy. He was going to be a team player, but that was what he pitched to people, like, in the long run. And I think, yeah, some of the younger dudes, even maybe the younger woman, would have been more receptive to the way Jimmy wanted to play than
and not people like Marty or Jimmy
Marty.
too.
Marty's first confessional in the first episode. Remember what he said? I want nothing to do with Jimmy Johnson in this game. Yeah. Quite frankly, I don't even know why he's here. And he's not wrong.
He's not.
I think Marty did exactly what I would have done in Marty's situation. But all right, so let's talk about the Medallion of Power.
One of the worst twists that Survivor ever had.
Yeah. It's just, I hate tribes having it. It almost is like the Fiji twist, the haves versus have-nots, without it being camp related, more just straight advantage in the challenge.
Yeah, but at least this was a little more balanced, because if you use it, it does go over to the other tribe.
Yeah. So do you like it more than haves versus have-nots?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I do too, but I still think it's one of the more
horrible and
unnecessary twists for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like I think they made a bigger deal about it. Jeff at least hyped it up more than it should have been.
Mm-hmm. So how it first happened was they still had everyone on the tribes they thought they were going to be on before they divided old versus young.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brenda found it.
Mm-hmm.
And once she came back with it, then they divided it to tribes.
Then they said these aren't your tribes. Like I think they like celebrate some of her tribe.
Marty did.
Excited that she won it, and then they realized they weren't on her tribe.
Because Jeff even asked Marty when she came back. He's like, "Oh, Marty, how do you feel that Brenda found the Medallion of Power?" And he's like, "Oh, it's great. It's going to help our tribe." And he's like, "It'd be good if she was on your tribe, but she's not." And then split the tribes up.
All right. So getting into this, I remember going back to the LaFleur camp. They show that Kelly B has an amputated leg, and some people are very encouraging of this, but Nayanka immediately is like, that girl's gonna like put us at a disadvantage in the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
She's immediately judging Kelly B for it. And it's pretty quite clear right away that she doesn't like Kelly B.
Yeah.
At all.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Chase, who I think from the very first episode, you could see how he just plays both sides so much, and he doesn't do it well, I don't think either.
Yeah, I don't think he does it good either.
He's literally Chase, like he almost wins the game, but to me, he didn't play a good game because he was so paranoid and he wasn't making moves in his best interest. He was doing things that were going to save himself, but they weren't like looked at as strong moves, or people weren't going to be very happy with the way he was playing both sides. He was literally playing both sides and telling people he was playing both sides. It was just strange to me.
Yeah. He almost played it as bad as Dreams did.
Yeah.
In Fiji.
I think it's a pretty similar game, I would say.
Well, Dreams didn't come out and tell everyone that he's playing both sides, but he made it pretty obvious.
Yeah. All right. So he makes the alliance with Shannon and Alina, and who else was in that alliance? I'm trying to think. Fabio.
We said Shannon, Chase, Fabio, Alina.
And Alina, yeah. And then the other side was Brenda, Nayanka, Purple Kelly, I guess Benry was kind of, I don't know which side he was really on. But anyways, my point is Chase made alliances with both sides the very first day of the game before they even had an immunity challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alina and Kelly B find a clue to the idol. And let's talk about idols like for this instance. I think this was the first season where players had seen Russell Hantz play the game and find idols without clues. So you think that was going into the minds of some of these people or not really?
I don't think so.
I don't, just because I don't think they were. This is another season like Fiji. It was heavy recruits. I think Tyrone was a fan of the show.
Jimmy T was.
Jimmy T was. Marty seems like he was, but I'm not sure if he actually was a fan. He just had good game awareness, I guess. But most of them hadn't seen the show.
Mm-hmm. Or they'd seen whatever season they showed them.
It might have been Samoa, to be honest.
Could have been, but
or it could have been Heroes Villains.
But either way, the point is, I don't think they were looking for idols without clues yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Maybe not until I would say Philippines, when we finally got a good cast again, that we had people smart enough to
look for them without clues.
Yeah.
Even though we'll get to Philippines when we get to that season, but I love the way they hid the idols then. Or even if you didn't have the clue, good luck finding it.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think this first tribal is very interesting. So Espada loses the challenge like we all kind of thought they would. And then Wendy Jo is just, it is very, very cringe her at this tribal council.
God.
Do you remember exactly what she said?
Not really. What did she say?
She was asking the other, or telling Jeff, none of these people wanted to get to know me. They didn't even ask me how old I was.
Right.
And it's like anyone with common sense knows that's something you don't ask a woman. 40 especially, how old are you? It just doesn't go that way. And she was very cringe at that tribal, and
she ends up going home
unanimously. And it was just, I think she might have had a couple vote. I think Holly was on her side. She might have had a couple people maybe vote with her if she didn't really just dig her own grave at tribal. And
Wendy voted for Holly.
She did vote for Holly. Okay. I'm not sure why, but I mean, she's one of the worst first boots, I think, actually.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, she voted for Eve.
Okay. But they were just letting her have it at this tribal council, and the edit made it so clear she was going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when it's unanimous, the first vote, you always have an interesting tribal the next time. So at least for the most part, usually. Occasionally you get the back-to-back unanimous, but
yeah.
All right. So the second episode, I think, is a little more interesting than the first one. The first one was kind of dry to me.
Yeah. Some of the pre-merge wasn't good, but this episode might have been the best before the swap.
Yeah.
So you have when they get back to camp, the older tribe, Holly is like upset because she thinks she's on the block now.
Yeah.
Because she aligned herself with Wendy.
And she wants to quit the game this episode.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Johnson really
talked her out of it.
I think the title of the episode is "Fatigue makes cowards of us all," which is an old Vince Lombardi quote. So,
yeah,
I mean, he was really trying to play up that coach role, and they did give Jimmy I guess because he was booted early, they gave him a lot of screen time. He's the most popular. He's the most famous person, like you said, to ever play Survivor. You want to get his screen time if he's only going to be around for 3 episodes. Yeah. All right, so over at the younger tribe, we have Nyanka versus Fabio is starting to boil. And let me be honest, I've really loved this rivalry. It's a little bit like the ones we've talked about, like Rob Z and Sheehan. It's kind of like one of those wacky rivalries, but Nyanka just hates Fabio for no reason.
So it makes it so much funnier. Like Fabio literally did nothing and she just hates him.
Yeah. He's just a goofball, basically. And she just, for some reason, it rubs her the wrong way. And I don't really get it.
Well, what happened was Nyanka couldn't find her socks, and so she yelled at everyone saying she was going to start a war, and took Fabio's instead.
Yeah.
And so when Fabio got mad that she took hers, she just got mad at him for literally no reason.
Yeah. So then we had some more dumping stuff out at the other camp, right?
Yeah.
We had Holly who, I guess, didn't she dump out the snails or something?
Was it?
Yeah, she dumped out the snails, and I guess they were eating them at the time, and the tribe got really pissed about it, and I guess Dan lashed out at her, and then that's when she took
Dan's shoes.
You know how expensive the shoes were, apparently?
$1,600.
$1,600. And she took them and threw them in the water.
Filled them with sand and threw them in the ocean.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know at this point in the season, it's only the second episode, there's going to be a lot of drama. And that's the one thing I think this season feels a lot like reality television more than a
Survivor.
Bunch of people playing a good social strategy game. It's kind of like the Jersey Shore season of Survivor. I'd say this or like Gabon.
I think Gabon had a decent amount of gameplay, but we'll get to Gabon.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So then Holly wants to quit. She gets talked out of it. And then we have the reward and immunity challenge, which do you like when they combine them, or would you rather see both like separately?
Really, early on in the game, I'd rather see just the one challenge so we can get more time watching everyone still at camp. But like when it gets later, I like the divided up challenges.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, even at this point of Survivor, there is a lot, even though there's not great players, there's a lot of screen time on Game Talk, whereas in Thailand, we had almost nothing. Remember that it was
like camp life, challenge, 2 seconds of strategy, tribal.
Yep. And here, at least, we're seeing strategy throughout the whole episode, and the combined immunity and reward challenges lead to more time to discuss strategy. So I do like that aspect.
Yeah. And so Spotty uses the Medallion of Power here.
Yes. And it works in their favor.
They win the challenge, which the younger tribe has to go to tribal now.
Mm-hmm.
And then before we get back to the younger tribe, we go to the older tribe's camp after the challenge.
We have Marty.
Marty. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So he got a clue right from the reward. I think it was in the fishing gear.
Yes.
And then he found the idol pretty quickly. And I think he tells Jill, because I think Jill was his number one at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's just a little quick, I guess, just look at the older tribe even after their win, just to show you that Marty got the idol. But then we go back to the younger tribe where we have a pretty interesting dynamic, I think. Like, you don't know who is going home.
Yeah.
Because at first they wanted Nyanka out.
Yeah, Fabio wanted Nyanka out.
Yeah. And then he's not able to pull in enough people to do that. And then the one side with Shannon sees Brenda as a huge threat and they want her out. But Brenda's side wants Shannon out. And at this point, did we know Shannon was that big of a jackass? Like, had he showed that much, or
not really? It's not until Tribal that really jackass comes out.
Blow up at Tribal. But so why did they want to vote Shannon out?
I guess because he was a bit of he was going to be a threat down the road, and if he's not 100% working with them, he wanted him gone.
Yeah. So at this point, we had it was clear that someone who was looked at as a threat was probably going to go home. If it was going to be Shannon, Nyanka, or Brenda, we didn't know. But then it kind of got down to Shannon or Brenda, and Chase's puppy dog love for Brenda shows, but he's also in an alliance with Shannon. So it's a tough decision for him, and it just shows you if you put your hands in too many baskets, especially that early, that's going to come back and bite you. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, it worked for Chase. Like in the long run, he made it really far, but it showed
that he played too hard coming out of the gate.
He did, and he was playing both sides, like we said, so poorly, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then Tribal comes around, and Shannon just literally shoots himself in both feet.
Yeah, so at first, I guess he's just getting questions from Jeff, like normal questions he would ask, and he's just getting super, super defensive. And I just don't know why, especially when your name is on the line, that you're going to just not behave in a proper manner at tribal council. If there's people who are on the fence about their vote, I mean, it's not going to help yourself out. And then we have Sash, who tells him, you're pretty much digging your own grave, dude. And before he could even finish, Shannon cuts him off and says, can we get this out of the way right now? Or are you gay? And every single person at Tribal pretty much rolled their eyes at it. And I think Fabio told him to shut up or something like that.
Fabio, all Tribal, was trying to tell Shannon to shut his mouth.
Because I think he actually wanted to work with Shannon, and he just couldn't control him.
No, clear, no one could.
Yeah, and then I think at this point, we realized that this guy is a total loose cannon, and the way he's getting edited at Tribal, he's probably going to go home. But we did have, I think, 3 votes for Brenda. Fabio voted for Brenda.
Alina voted for Brenda.
Alina voted for Brenda.
So and obviously Shannon voted for Brenda.
Yeah. So this is where we get the start of Fabio voting incorrectly many times on his path to victory. But I mean, just goes to show you can win like the way he won. It's possible.
Doesn't happen often.
No, but it if you get to the end with the right people like he did, it's very possible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next episode.
That was a better episode than the first one.
It was, for sure. Like, I like when we don't know who's going home, and until Tribal, we really didn't know who was going to go home. All right, so next episode is the Jimmy Johnson boot episode.
Yep.
And quickly you see again how Marty does not want to play the game with this guy. He wants him out.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy's got some people that really like him, I think.
Well, yeah, he definitely, there's people there that do listen to him, like Holly.
Yeah. But, I mean, they also have to just take everything else into consideration. And I think he was voted out. They still think he's a really nice guy. Like, he was nice to all of them. None of them hated him. They just knew it was probably the best move. But
I don't know if Jimmy T was a huge fan of
No, he wasn't either, I don't think.
Yeah, I think he was just more upset. Like when we get to the immunity challenge, that I think it was Tyrone doing all the tossing of the sandbags.
Yeah.
And then he got mad that he didn't get a turn and blamed it on Jimmy.
Yeah. So LaFleur wins the challenge. It's another combined immunity and reward challenge. And like you said, he's pretty pissed off. Jimmy's pretty pissed he didn't get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think we go. All right, go ahead.
We go back to LaFleur first.
I was going to say that, yeah. So go into that.
Kelly Bruno and Nayaka are carrying the reward back to camp, and they see there's a clue in the basket for the idol. Nayaka literally gets back to camp, shoves Kelly to the ground so she can get the idol clue for herself.
Yeah, and I mean, it just goes to show you I mean, it's just a clue. Battle it out fairly.
Mhm.
I mean, Kelly B doesn't want to be treated any differently because she has a prosthetic leg, but it's also just scummy of Nyanka to do this. I don't think anyone watching was sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, go Nyanka when she's doing this. I think everyone pretty much sympathized with Kelly B.
It doesn't matter who you are. You don't do that.
Yeah. Ugh, I can't stand
Just,
Nyanka.
I was gonna say this is one of the many reasons why I don't like Nayaka. But
Yeah.
after that, we go back to the older tribe because now they actually have to go to tribal.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of interesting. I think Jimmy and Dan were the two names mainly being thrown out just because they were the oldest guys and they needed to win challenges.
Yeah, because Dan was really struggling at everything, but I think they definitely wanted Jimmy Johnson out first.
I think Jimmy, they both equally, I guess Dan wasn't going to help him in challenges, but Jimmy wasn't really either. And Jimmy, I guess, had more potential in his game than Dan. Dan was kind of just a goat the whole time, I would say.
And so he ends up going home unanimously.
Yeah, and some people were hesitant and wanted to vote out Dan, but I think Tyrone was the one person who really didn't want to vote out Jimmy, but he knew he had to do it.
Well, because everyone else was doing it.
Yeah. So we get another unanimous vote on the older tribe.
Yep.
All right. So next episode, quickly getting into it at the LaFleur camp, Brenda and Nyanka find the hidden immunity idol. But Nyanka, obviously being one of those people, makes it pretty clear in the confessional that it's her idol. It's not Brenda's idol. And she's the one who has possession of it.
Yep. Well, it's like in Fiji when Moki was Moki, Edgardo, and Alex found the idol. Moki went to his confession, was like, nope, it's mine.
Ironic how that worked out for him.
And
I also crazy how this is going to turn out too.
Yeah.
With this idol. So they kind of like bully Kelly B, I think, at this point too, into looking for the idol when they already
and Elena.
Yeah. And they make them look like idiots.
The two of them go looking for it. Nyanka kind of just follows them around and tells them they're at the bottom. They're going home. Like, why do you have to act like this?
Yeah, she's obnoxious. She really is. And it's so early in the game too, and you're going to be that obnoxious about literally everything. It's terrible. All right, so at the reward and immunity challenge, it's the one with the collar, right?
Yeah, it's the blindfold challenge.
And Tyrone is picked as a caller, and Nyanka. Who was the younger tribe's caller?
Was it Nyanka?
I think it was Brenda.
Yes, it was Brenda.
It was Brenda, yeah. Okay, so I know Jimmy T is not happy that Tyrone's the caller and he's not. And LaFleur, again, takes it. Well, the last time they didn't use it, but this time
they used the medallion of power this time.
They used it, and they easily win the challenge. They probably would have won anyways, but it shows more how I don't like this twist. It's just.
Yeah, no, I don't like it either, but.
Especially when you already have one tribe at such a physical advantage towards the other. It's unnecessary. All right, so LaFleur wins. They also get a reward, and Chase finds a clue to the idol in the reward, and then goes and tells Brenda, and then Brenda tells him that Nyanka already has the idol. So this shows you, I think, really, we didn't see it later on, but early on in the game, Chase and Brenda were very close.
Yeah.
And they were going to tell each other pretty much everything. It was almost like a little showmance, but it wasn't.
It was kind of one-sided because Chase definitely had something for Brenda.
Yeah, and she was
She
more
wasn't feeling it.
interested in using him for the game, using it to her advantage.
Then you go back to the older tribe because they have to go to tribal again.
Yeah, and
If Jimmy T's still all upset that he's not,
I don't like Jimmy T.
neither do I.
I think he is another one. I think a lot of these early boots, besides Jimmy Johnson, out of the first 4 boots, I think he also dug his own grave.
Yeah.
You just have to
Especially-
shut up in that
Exactly.
situation.
I think if he doesn't say anything, I don't think he goes home.
You think Tyrone goes home instead?
I think Tyrone, he could go home. I think Dan probably goes.
Dan could definitely go too. Because Dan's name was being thrown out very early.
Well, because Dan's such a negative in challenges
Yeah.
that you kind of, if you
And I
can,
guess
you have to sit him
Camp
out.
too.
Yeah. So I feel like if Jimmy T just keeps his mouth shut, I think Dan probably goes home this episode and he could probably go farther in the game. But obviously he can't, and that's why he goes home.
Yeah, so we have Holly, Jane voted for Dan, and the rest
Everyone else voted for Jimmy T.
voted for Jimmy T. And it was kind of clear at this point that Marty was easily in control on this tribe.
Mhm.
Whoever he wanted to go home pretty much
Went
was
home.
going home. Yeah. And it's not until the swap where he really loses his power.
Mhm.
And I'll still argue he plays a good game, but it shows you if you lose a lot of challenges early and then you get swap screwed, you can really be forced to not play how you intended to play.
I think that's definitely what happened with Marty.
Yeah. Yeah, so next episode we have the tribe swap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think before that we have Marty on one camp and Nyanka on the other camp who think they're in complete control on their tribes.
Yep.
I don't think Nyanka actually was, but Marty
No,
definitely.
Marty was.
Yeah.
But Nyanka just had the attitude about it, like, oh, look at me.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into these new tribes. So on one tribe, we have Fabio, Chase, Sash, 3 younger tribe guys that stay together. Then we have, we have Chase was on the other tribe. Never mind. We had Fabio, Sash, Jane, Kelly S, Purple Kelly, I mean, Brenda,
Kelly B,
Kelly B,
Marty,
and Marty,
and Jill.
and Jill. Yeah. So Marty and Jill are down.
Mm-hmm.
5-2.
So, but what happened on this swap was they had the 2 different captains.
Drew for
They Drew rocks. It was Brenda for LaFleur and Holly for Espada. So what they did was Brenda had to pick 3 people from the older tribe to join her tribe, and then Holly did pick, I believe, 4 of the younger tribe to come with her.
Yeah.
So Brenda picked Jane, Jill, and Marty, and Holly ended up picking Benry, Alina, Nyanka, and Chase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they were kind of divided. But if you're counting Jane as with younger people, it was 6-2 because there's 8 on each tribe.
Yeah. That's true.
They were not in a good spot.
Yeah, and Jane does not like Marty at all. So
Nope.
It is clear she's ready to flip as soon as possible.
Yep.
All right, so now it's just a reward challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And who wins this challenge? Espada.
Espada wins it, and they get chickens.
Yep. And then we have the new tribes back at camp.
Mm-hmm. We go to Espada first, and then Tyrone's not happy.
And it's another guy who kind of shot himself in the foot. I mean, I understand you kind of go down and were they down in numbers?
It was 4-4.
They were 4-4. The other one was 5.
The other tribe was 5-3 with the younger
sort
tribe.
of 6-2, but
Mhm.
so this is not a good look for him.
No,
And the younger tribe members really don't like it, and
especially
they
Nyanka.
make it clear they want to align with them first. And I think Holly sees this as another in, and she tries to get in with the younger people.
Mm-hmm. Because she definitely sees that Dan, Eve, and Tyrone are kind of a sinking ship. She's like, here, let me jump on board. If I do that, I could probably get to merge.
Mm-hmm. And like we said back at the other tribe, Jane immediately goes to the younger people and says, Jill and Marty are a very tight alliance, and I'm not with them. We have the numbers to get them out.
Yeah. Jane did not want Marty around at all.
No, not at all. And then this is where we first get Nyanka basically back on the other tribe saying she wants to quit the game.
It was a foreshadow.
Yeah. And they did a great job of building up the demise of Nyanka, I guess. That's the one thing I think some of this season was edited pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fabio's win was edited well too. Like,
well, they had to.
Yeah.
Everyone else was so unlikable.
Yeah. And they kind of gave him confessionals pretty early on where he was saying stuff about laying low and not appearing to be a threat and stuff like that that made you think this guy could get far in the game. But yeah, anyways, the quit, they've really foreshadowed that quit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as much with Purple Kelly. They just made her invisible, but
yeah. To be honest, you don't even know Purple Kelly's on the season until she quits.
That episode has a lot from her, but just because she quits, it's nothing else. All right, so Espada loses the challenge, and then they go back to tribal or back to camp, and this is where they kill the chickens, and Tyrone doesn't want to kill the chickens.
Yeah.
And it's just a weird dynamic.
Well, what happened was Tyrone didn't want to kill it and then ended up eating a lot of it anyway.
Yeah.
And so he kind of gets himself voted out here for being a bit of a, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes out 6-2. Only Eve votes with him. Even a few of his
Holly and Dan go
older
vote with the younger tribe.
Yeah, they go with the younger people. And I mean, yeah, he kind of shot himself in the foot, but it also would have been nice to see Nyanka go out here because she literally wanted to go home. And
yeah, it would have been nice, but this season it was clear that if you wanted something to happen, it was not going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. All right.
Next episode is the double.
Yes. So we have an individual immunities are one.
Yeah. So it's an individual immunity. Each tribe competes in its own individual challenge. And then the winners of the immunity challenge face off for a tribal reward.
Mm-hmm.
So Holly wins it for the older tribe. Jill wins it. Holly wins it for Espada. Jill wins it for LaFleur. And then Jill wins the reward for her tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And so how it works is now LaFleur goes to tribal first. They vote the person out.
And then they eat and watch tribal.
Yep. They watch Espada's tribal while they feast.
All right. So how do you feel about doubles? Do you like double episodes?
I like them. Yeah.
I love it.
So do I.
It's just total action packed like the whole time, even if it's bad season.
You're getting a full show in that whole time. Like there's not going to be any dull moments like in some episodes there are.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
so is this where we have Marty go wacko with his idol?
No.
Not yet. No.
If I'm thinking what you're talking about, no, not yet. So what he does here, what happens is before the challenge, LaFleur's thinking, we're going to split this vote on Marty and Jill because they knew Marty had the idol.
Because he told everyone that
and he hung it up at camp.
He had the idol, yeah.
So They were
What do
gonna
you think
split
of
the
that?
votes.
Actually, let's go back to that.
It's so dumb. Like, why would you do
I
that?
love Marty, but that was such a bad move. He made a few really bad moves.
Yeah.
I know his
Oh,
back.
we'll get into when we get to the next episode. We'll talk about his other bad move with the idol.
Yeah.
But once Joe won immunity, they realized they couldn't split the vote, and because they had to, because Marty still had the idol, they decided let's split it on Kelly B. And then they quickly think to themselves, if we split this vote on Kelly B, she's gonna be pretty pissed coming back to camp. So when they end up with a tie vote between Marty and Kelly B, because he doesn't play the idol, Kelly B ends up going home, and that I got really confused on that one.
See, I just don't know why if you're splitting the vote, Marty doesn't play his idol. You have a chance
Marty
to
out,
get
the
him
idol's
out
gone.
and flush the idol, and you vote for Kelly B, who's not a threat at all.
The only thing they were worried about was, oh, Kelly B is gonna be mad if she goes back to camp. Okay, vote her out next.
Yeah, I think that it was
it just
Marty
shows like this.
ultimately make it that far because he was on the bottom, but it would have been a smarter move to get out Marty with an idol in his pocket too.
That's what I don't get. Like, it just shows like the limited brain capacity of some of these people that are out there. This dude he's on the bottom with an idol, does not play it. How the hell are you leaving him in the game?
Yeah, that's true. I think
anyone with common sense votes out the person if they have an idol.
Yeah. I think we also get Marty talking about being a chess master to Fabio.
Yeah.
And he's just totally full of shit. And it's
just funny. So funny how Fabio totally buys it.
And I want to say the name he used was like a old like tennis or soccer player.
It was an old tennis player, yeah.
Tennis.
I don't remember the exact name, but
it was Guillermo Villas. That's what it was.
There you go.
He said he beat him in like some world championship of chess or some nonsense like that. All right, so Kelly B goes home. Marty takes a ballsy move, not playing the idol there.
I would have played the idol if I was him.
100% would have played the idol. But it worked out for him somehow.
I don't know how, but it did.
Somehow they didn't vote for him on the revote. And then we have
Espada
with Eve.
But that one seemed a lot more cut and dry than LaFleur did.
It definitely was. It was either going to be Eve or Dan. And Eve
you kind of knew it was going to be Eve
to get rid of Dan, because Dan kind of has hinted too that he wants to quit the game at certain points.
Mm-hmm. So but when he gets asked about it, he says no.
Yeah, even though he did say it in a confessional, I think. I'm pretty sure earlier in this episode, maybe like day 15, he said he wanted to quit the game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about so we have two people that actually quit. And then we have Holly who wants to quit early, and we have Dan who kind of wants to quit. Conditions were tough this season.
They were, but on the other side, like we said earlier, this is a lot of recruit-heavy season. I feel like some of the fans that go out there don't care about the conditions. It's more the people they pick up off the street, like, oh, I don't like it out here, and then want to go.
Yeah.
So I feel like that definitely ties into who wants to quit and who doesn't.
Yeah. All right. So back at next episode, this is going to be the last episode before the merge.
Mm-hmm.
And at Espada, they kind of want to vote Alina out next, but they're not going to end up going to tribal. So
yeah, LaFleur goes back.
Yeah.
But hold on, you're forgetting the big major breaking of the episode. Purple Kelly finally got a confessional.
Episode 7.
Yep, it was her first one.
First one. What did he say exactly?
They lost the reward challenge. It was her just saying, "Oh, I wish we won that challenge."
Oh, the milk your own milk one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really go out of the way to make her look so bad.
Oh, everything that comes out of her mouth is just horrible. And I think I've heard that this is the classic example of Jeff. If you quit the show, Jeff and production, they want to make you look bad in the edit.
Well, they certainly made both Mayaka and Purple Kelly look bad.
Yeah, very bad. I don't. It's weird. Nyanka got a shit ton of screen time, and even though she was kind of a nasty person, they kind of made her out to be this power player. She found an idol.
The
And
sunlight
then,
in your room is like flashing right in your face.
yeah, and then, yeah, it is really bad. And then Purple Kelly, they just completely like
Ghosted her.
let's just act like she's not even on this season.
They made Bianca look horrible, and they made Purple Kelly act like she's not there.
Yeah. All right. So there was a horseback reward, right?
Yeah.
And then Espada also wins the immunity challenge.
Mm-hmm. And so LaFleur ends up going back to tribal.
Yep.
And this is when Marty pulls the BS with his idol.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into that. So at this point, don't you think he should have saw how snaky Sash is and thought this was not in his best interest?
Who the hell gives away their idol when you're on the bottom and you know you're probably going home?
To Sash, of all people.
To anyone.
Yeah.
You know there's a 50-50 shot you're going home. Why are you giving the idol away? I'd just rather play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least if I play it, it can get re-hit and I can go find it again.
Yeah, and I mean, Sash is a snake, but it would have been so easy for. I know he didn't end up ultimately voting Marty out here, but it would have been so easy for them to just turn around and do that.
And that's the other thing I have. You took his idol. Why are you leaving him in the game?
Yeah.
This is twice they should have gotten rid of Marty and didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Marty, but it's just this was
horrible.
Horrible. And say he held it and correctly like didn't play it this tribal.
I think if he held on to it, he was going home.
You think so?
I think they put the vote on Jill because Sash took the idol. Like, all right, I'll spare you for one more vote.
Yeah.
I think if he doesn't give up the idol, if he doesn't play it, he's going home.
And then they spare him for one more vote at the merge too. But would have been nice to have that idol the next tribal after that, though, right?
Yeah.
But you said you think if it was in his possession, it would have been played at this.
I would have. Yeah, if I was Marty and Sash goes to, he says, "Oh, give me your idol." I'd be like, who the fuck do you think you are? And I'm playing it that night. Because, like I said, at least if you play it that night, it most likely gets re-hit.
Yeah.
And you go find it. And this time, don't parade it around camp saying you have it.
All right, so now we go into merge at 6-6. Right? Was it 6-6?
From the swap tribes, yeah.
Yes. But I don't think those swap tribes were totally going to be loyal to each other. I think that it was, I wouldn't say the old versus young thing either, but the 6-6 was not a clear tight 6 and another clear tight 6 at all.
Yeah. Well, because the Espadas made it kind of obvious they wanted Alina out.
Yeah. For sure. And Alina was kind of like preaching us 6 have to stay together. Like we could be final 6. And they just weren't enthusiastic about it at all.
Nope. And then, well, before that, we had the merge feast when they all get to the Espada camp and merge there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, I believe it was the next day when Nyanka gets upset about whatever. And so she takes the flour away that's in the merge food supply.
This just goes another angry outburst from Nyanka.
Then she drags Alina down with her.
Yeah, and Alina basically partially gets targeted for this. And just because Alina knew, like, was there and saw it, she did not really want any part of it, I don't think. But once she knew, I think she told Nyanka that if she doesn't confess to this, it's going to be a really bad look.
Mm-hmm.
So she does end up confessing, correct?
Yes, she does.
And she also is still like BSing her way, though. Like she claimed she did it to benefit the tribe, I think, but
Yeah, and she was definitely throwing Alina under.
yeah, for sure. And Alina ends up taking the fall from this.
Well, yeah, because you have Chase and Sash who want to keep Nyaka around. So, oh, let's just pin this on Alina. We want Alina out anyway.
Yeah, and I think the strongest four that are together at this point in the game were Brenda, Sash, Jane,
Chase and Nyaka.
Chase. And Nyaka. Those five. Oh, I guess there's five then. They were all really
Yeah.
solid together, I would say.
Mhm.
All right. So then there's the first immunity challenge, and this is the one I think they're got a rope and they're like on the edge of the water, and like I think you fall in if you.
No, it's you're holding
that
the
was
bar
later
like
on.
this.
Okay.
The one last man and last woman standing, win it.
Okay. So they had two immunities.
All the women drop pretty quickly, and Jane wins.
Yep.
And then for the guys, they hang around longer, but Fabio ends up winning it.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just reading. The RMG just sent the rules. I was reading it really quickly. All right, so let's get back to this. So at this point, do you think it's pretty obvious that Alina is going to get targeted, or?
Yeah, I think Alina's going home, but Jane tries to flip it on Marty because she still doesn't like him.
Yeah. So we get Alina and Jane vote for Marty, and
the other 10 people
else
vote for Alina.
Yeah, so I think this was more of a classic, I guess. Let's just make this kind of an easy first vote.
Well, don't forget at Tribal, Marty is really trying to pin Jane as like this huge threat.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Jane can't go home because she has immunity. He's doing what he can to try to save himself for next time.
Yeah, he's basically saying Jane is going to win this game if she gets to the end. And I don't know if that's the thing. Do you think that they were overestimating Jane, or do you think that she actually had a shot if she got to the end to win?
I think she had a shot if she got to the end.
Okay.
Because I think she definitely has the story of she needs the money, just give it to her.
Yeah. She had like a family loss or something, I think.
I think her husband, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she had the story to get there, and Marty was really doing the right thing at this point to save himself.
Yeah.
It's weird. Marty, like you said, makes two horrible moves. One by telling everyone he has the idol, and then two by
giving the idol away.
Up the idol. But besides that, I really enjoyed the way he played the game. And he had after being in such power early, he really had his back against the wall.
Yeah. And then next episode comes. They go back to camp. Jane's upset, still pissed off at Marty.
Yeah.
And so she's really trying to get her way and get him out of the game. Yeah. So I believe this is now 3 straight tribals. She wrote his name down.
Yeah. And then at this point, Marty's really thinking too, because I think he gets Benry and Dan
and Fabio.
He's got them with him at this point. And
his plan was to get an all guys alliance going, so he could pick off Jane and then go from there.
And he wanted, I guess, the other side to think that it was going to be Nyanka in case they played an idol. So, I mean, Marty really did what he had to do at this point, but it was pretty clear he was going to be in trouble. And I think we see with him and then with Brenda next that in a cast full of not great players, they made themselves two big threats too early.
Yeah, it sucks when watch that happen because Marty and Brenda are two really good players, and to watch them go that quickly, especially what comes after Brenda gets voted out, it kind of just sucks.
All right, so here we have an interesting reward challenge where Chase isn't picked, and you have to decide to.
Well, it was a random rock draw for the teams.
Yeah.
It ended up being all the guys
back.
Yeah, it was all the guys on one tribe except Chase because he didn't get picked. He picked the odd rock, and then the other team was all girls. So it was men versus women chased, but then back the women. But the men won kind of easily.
Yeah. And some of them are upset that Chase sided with the women, I think. But Marty doesn't care. He's still pushing for Jane to go home.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next we have a memory immunity challenge, and Brenda goes on to win, I believe.
Yes, she does.
Yes, Brenda wins.
I actually really like the memory challenge.
Yeah, I think they're cool.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're suffering like that. It's probably tough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard for even when you're not, because when I hosted my last season, we did a memory challenge like this as our merge challenge.
Yeah.
And even then, some people were having trouble. And I'm like, you guys are at home all the time. Imagine going out there and trying to remember all these things.
All right, so at this point, yeah, Marty's still fighting hard for Jane, but Nyanka's name is also being thrown out there.
Mm-hmm. And so Nyanka once again decides to start yelling at Fabio.
Yeah, she was, I guess, getting into the tribal. I remember she was really pissed off at this tribal council, at Marty and Fabio in particular.
She just, I wish she had like some. Nyanka could have been a really good player if she just had any sort of common sense to keep her cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was some game there, but it was just, she's just a nasty person, I think. And she didn't try to hide it either. She was very in your face about it.
Yeah, no, she's.
All right, so when it looks like Marty definitely has Fabio, Benry, and Dan with him, but they make it kind of like maybe he's going to be able to pull a couple more votes and get this to go his way.
He was never going to.
But Brenda and Sash at this point decide they're going to go with the other side. And I think the edit's making you seem at this point that Brenda and Sash are in control of the game.
Mm-hmm. I do have a question though. If you're Brenda and you know you're a big threat going down the line, do you want to get rid of Marty this early, knowing he's the other huge threat?
Absolutely not. Because
I would have went and got rid of Jane.
That's what happened. And like I said, this cast wasn't full of many good players, and we saw I think the two best, which were Marty and Brenda, go shortly after the merge. And it would have been smarter for Brenda or even Sash, who I know he was a goat, but he definitely had some power in the game at certain points, to have some sort of shield around. Instead, it was too early, is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty definitely went too soon, but it was fun watching him play.
It was.
I wish he had come.
I was just going to say I wish he had gotten another shot, but I think that ship sailed.
I think so too. I don't think we're getting anyone else back from this season.
No, hell no. So we go on to the next episode now.
Yes. So this is when the tides are going to start to turn against Sash and Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
And Brenda is quickly being targeted, I think, by Holly. Holly thinks she can get numbers to get one of them out of the game.
And she does it kind of easily, too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's just, I don't know. It's like you said, Brenda, if she just hadn't made herself such a threat this early, she would have had a much better chance to at least get to like final 6 or final 7. Like, I mean, if she makes it through this vote, she's guaranteed final 7 because we have the fucking quitters.
Double quits.
It's horrible.
But like we said, two good players this season, even they make very questionable decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty with the shit with his idol, and then you have Brenda here who took out Marty way too quickly, and she paid the price in the very next episode.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So we have a reward challenge next. And this is when I think Chase, Fabio, Nyanka, Purple Kelly, and Jane win that like volcano reward trip. I think they had the same one in Redemption Island, but
Yes, they did.
It's the same location too, so it makes sense. But this is when Nyanka tries to get Fabio to vote out Brenda.
This was also the when they went to the reward challenge, the fire at camp.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
decide, let's put all these wooden crates around the fire before we go to try to keep the fire burning. But what happens when you put a bunch of wood near a fire?
Not good.
Idiots.
Yeah, so they come back in their whole camp is on fire.
The losing team goes back to camp and realizes their whole shelter is destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. And it just shows you also the conditions in this season were really bad. All right, so now we have this is the challenge I thought
the
was
lean back on the rope. Yeah.
Lean back. And Jane wins the challenge, right?
Yes, Jane won it.
That's her second immunity.
Yes.
Which is crazy that she's winning immunity challenges.
She's better than she looks. She's a lot more physical than she looks.
Yeah. All right, so now we get back to camp, and there's an interesting dynamic because Chase and Sash have made Brenda a lot of promises, and everyone else basically wants to vote out Brenda, but they think it's in their best interest to still vote out Benry.
But then they realize they don't have the numbers. The only way they could do it is if Sash uses his idol.
Yeah.
Brenda.
So at this point, I thought it was interesting because usually when a power player like this goes home at final 10, they're blindsided, especially when they're in the majority for the previous votes. So it's just tricky. And it's also like, it's kind of weird that they made it like everybody basically told Brenda, like, you're getting majority of the votes tonight. It's basically going to come down to whether Sash is going to use his idol on you or not.
Yeah, the blind side is Brenda going to go home because she knew she's getting the majority of the votes. She was more blindsided that Sash did not give her the idol.
Yeah.
And instead voted her out.
Yeah. And I think it was who voted with Brenda here? Purple Kelly?
No one. Purple Kelly voted for Benry. Brenda voted for Nyanka, and everyone else voted for Brenda.
Yeah, for sure. So no, what was it again? My bad.
It was 8-1-1. Brenda voted Nyanka. Purple Kelly voted for Benry. Everyone else voted for Brenda.
Okay. So Purple Kelly was just completely left out of the loop there. I remember that.
Yep.
And I think when they get back to camp, she's really bitchy about how she was left out. And like, I can't imagine. This is where you finally get stuff from Purple Kelly because she's going to quit this episode.
Yep.
But she's really upset about being left out of the vote and thinks it's like the end for her. All right.
So now we get the reward challenge.
Oh,
but before it, Nyanka, and you kind of get hints that they're kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
And so the reward challenge comes around. Benry, Chase, Holly, and Nyanka win it. And then Nyanka
still chooses to go on the reward, even though she's going to quit the game.
She said her and Purple Kelly both say they want to quit. And then Jeff offers up, because this is right after the camp had just went on fire and they lost their rice supply, that he offered up a tarp and a can of rice if someone who won the reward wanted to give up their reward for the tribe.
Yeah.
So if one of Benry, Chase, Holly, or Nyanka gave up the reward, they'd get a tarp and rice for the camp, but they couldn't go to them. They went to a movie screening.
Nyanka should have she should have given it up. It was just such a selfish move, I think.
Yeah, you're leaving the game. You're gonna eat that. If you know you're gonna quit and leave the game that night, just let the tribe have it.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. I mean,
because now poor Holly has to give up her reward, so the tribe has to.
All right, so at this point, we don't even have an immunity challenge this episode.
No,
which is
because
crazy.
What happens is this is literally the next day, right after Brenda goes home.
Mm-hmm.
So they had go on the reward, and then right after the reward, they go right to tribal.
Mm-hmm.
Because Purple Kelly and Nyanka both want to quit, and Jeff's like, "Hey, let's just have tribal tonight, and you guys can decide there." They both show up, and they both quit. Because then you have back at camp, for the people who did not go on reward, Holly was trying to convince Purple Kelly to not quit. Because you remember Holly wanted to quit early on in the game, that Jimmy Johnson kind of talked her out of it. Now she's trying to kind of do the same for Purple Kelly, but it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So at tribal here, we just have Jeff basically
just lay into the two of them.
Laying into them. You have a 1 in 9 chance to win this game, and you are going to quit.
And then they keep panning to the jury. You have Marty and Brenda sitting there talking to each other. The two of them are pissed.
Yeah.
And you have Alina who's crying on the jury.
They're like, this is disgusting behavior.
Was that Marty or Brenda? Because the two of them were very vocal in their disgust.
Yeah.
Of the double quit.
For sure.
Especially because they were the two top players. They just get voted out, and these two people made it further than you.
Yeah. I also think that it's just, you have Nyanka who thinks she has a chance to win the game, but she's quitting. She didn't have a chance, but
no one liked her.
She did. And you also see Marty and Brenda laughing there about how
Marty and Brenda on the jury were so cool.
Oh, they were just so in awe of how stupid some of these people were that made it further than others.
Mm-hmm. Well, further than them.
Yeah.
They're sitting there like, really? These people got farther than me in this game?
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. It's just one of the worst moments in the whole season, basically.
And it totally takes the air out of the season, too, because you have the two big threats, like Marty and Brenda going home. It's like, oh, this season's starting to get good. These are two pretty good travels. And then a double quit.
Oh. All right. So after this, we still have a majority alliance of Chase, Jane, Holly, and I guess Sash, but he's kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm. And you have Benry, Dan, and Fabio on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, I think you know that Benry or Fabio are in trouble next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Dan's kind of you can take him out next. You're not worried about him winning anything. Meanwhile, Benry and Fabio are two challenged threats that you kind of have to worry about.
Yeah. So let's get back into this. All right. There's a reward challenge, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's the second chance challenge, basically.
Yeah, they did a bunch of the challenges they've done.
Mm-hmm. And Chase wins it.
And who does he not take?
He takes Holly and Jane, so he doesn't take Sash or any
take Sash, who he promised. And it just goes to show you that this guy promised so many people so many things. And when you do that, you can't keep all your promises. And it's just...
And this is definitely where Benry and Fabio see an opportunity.
Yeah.
Hey, Sash, Chase promised you this and just left you out.
Yeah.
We should go after him. Come with us.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, so at this point, So at this point, I mean, we've already said Sash is clearly in the middle, and he's just got to decide which side he wants to go with.
Yep.
And I guess Chase and Holly still they give Sash a little more certainty to go with them because they still do see Jane as this big threat, and Jane still will eventually have to go before the end. So I think this is what really gets Sash to go on their side instead of the other side.
Yeah, because if Sash goes with the other three, the three of them are going to be too tight. They're not going to take Sash to the end with them.
Yeah,
And
and
if he knows that Chase and Holly are going to take Jane out at some point, then obviously he's going to feel more comfortable because he'd have a spot in the final three with the two of them.
And I think he knows that at this point, he knows that Benry and Fabio are his biggest challenge threats too. So one of them kind of has to go at this point.
Yep. And saying that, Sash wins the immunity challenge.
Yeah, so Sash wins, and at this point, this is where they should have taken out Fabio.
Yep. But when they wanted Benry out first.
Mm-hmm. And I guess Benry could have been Fabio. He could have won.
Maybe. I don't really think Benry's as likable as Fabio is.
He's not either, but he's not totally unlikable. And I'm just saying, I think we would have gotten a better edit from him if he had made
if he is the one who went on the run instead of Fabio.
Exactly.
Probably.
But it still would have been smart to vote out Fabio here.
Oh, yeah. But that's also a little bit of Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, because Fabio wasn't seen as a threat.
No.
They should have known he was an immunity threat, though, but because that's ultimately what wins him the game.
Yeah.
He goes home one of those last few tribals if he doesn't win.
He was the target all three times.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, so what was the votes here were interesting, I think.
So what happened was they convinced Benry and Dan that they were going to vote Fabio out.
Yeah.
So Benry and Dan both vote for Fabio. Fabio has his plan if he wants to vote out Holly. And so they just let him do what he wanted because his vote didn't matter. Because the four of them were going to vote for Benry. And if there was no chance he had anything, but even if there was, Fabio goes home. So they didn't really care.
It was kind of smart of them to get Benry and Dan to vote for Fabio. And then Fabio's completely on his own once again.
Yeah. What a shock Fabio's left out.
Yeah. All right, so now we're at final 6 and we get the loved ones visit. So what happened with the loved ones visit?
Chase wins the challenge again.
Chase wins the challenge. And again, I've talked about this before. We've talked about it, but this is not the challenge you want to win. It just crushes people to make some of these choices.
Yeah.
And that's what he did
it's here. Definitely a difficult thing because, if I'm out there, I want to win it because I want to spend time with whoever my loved one is that comes out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a game killer. You piss off the wrong person, and you could be fucked.
Yeah, and he chose.
Sash Holly and Sash.
And Holly and Dan, Fabio, and Jane are all upset.
He promised one of them to take him on reward and didn't do it. I think it might have been Fabio.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's once again Chase making promises that he knows he's not going to keep.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary promises too.
All right. So after this, they all on the reward, they're talking about how they have to vote Fabio. They have to vote Fabio out. And they just can't do it because he just goes on a run and he wins this immunity challenge. And this is where Fabio sort of has a little bit of power just because they have to, unless they want Dan out, they have to go against their own group.
And that's what they have to decide. Do we just vote out Dan and keep our 4 intact, or is this when we take our shot at Jane?
Yeah. Well,
and they decide here.
Voted out Dan here and then just did the same thing and voted out Jane next.
Yeah, but I don't think they expected Fabio to win the next two challenges.
Yeah.
And I guess they were a little more worried about Jane in case like we take Dan out now, we get Fabio out next. Jane could win the final challenge.
Yeah, and it's
Unless we
like
get Jane out now, Fabio next, Dan's not winning anything.
Dan wasn't winning challenges or the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think they made the right call getting Jane out here.
Yeah, for sure. She was the perception on her was high, and if she got to the end, she had the story to win, and it was the right move.
Yep.
Especially for Fabio too, but worked out for him. All right. So now we're at the finale episode.
Yep.
So Fabio knows he's still the odd man out, and he's trying to break that in case he doesn't win the immunities.
Mm-hmm. Well, he still has Dan around, so
yeah. So he
knows Dan is with him, so he just needs one more vote, and he decides to go after Holly.
Yeah, which makes sense because Holly, I think, was kind of a threat.
Mm-hmm.
She might have. Let's play this ahead a little. Do you think she could beat Fabio? You think it was Fabio, Sash, and Holly she wins?
I don't know. She could, but I think Fabio had the story with the jury. I think he wins if he gets at the end.
What about Holly, Chase, and Sash?
She wins in a walk. Holly.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so yeah, he's making the right move to kind of want her out. And then, I mean, Fabio wins the immunity challenge, but for some reason, no matter what he's pitching, it's not going to work. And it's inevitable that Dan is going to go out next, even though Dan is pitching that anybody beats me in the end. I'm like, why are you getting rid of me now? And I think it was, I don't know why they didn't just vote out Holly here. Because if Fabio votes out Holly instead of Dan, if Sash, Chase, and Fabio decide let's vote out Holly instead of Dan, I mean, Holly had a better chance of winning that last challenge than Dan would have. Yeah. So they're basically getting rid of someone who isn't going to win or has any chance of winning that final challenge.
They wanted to keep Holly around because they needed Fabio out that bad.
Yeah. I guess they were taking the chance they were just going to lose to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So what ended up happening was Fabio ends up actually voting Dan out.
Yeah.
And then Dan doesn't even vote Holly. He votes for Chase.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like
him. And then we have Dan's last words, which are
I loved it.
So
this is
funny.
Great.
What did he say?
I switched my vote to Chase at the last second to show how much I dislike the guy. I don't want anything to do with him. Holly, you're a crook. You stole my shoes. They ought to cut your damn hands off.
Yeah.
And Sash is just a whining little girl.
Yeah.
And he makes a little whining noise.
His final tribal was hilarious too.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So now we're at the final four.
Mm-hmm. And then they do the Fallen Comrades tribute.
Do you like that?
I love it. I really do.
I think it's kind of cheesy, but I wish they brought it back still. It was a staple in Survivor for a while, and
yeah, I'm annoyed that they got rid of it.
Yeah. All right, so this point, Fabio wins the last immunity challenge, and then we have everyone basically
scrambling,
begging him to take him to the end. And Fabio, basically, he's laughing because he's never had this power in the game, and now he's got Sash and Chase begging for their life, throwing each other's names out.
It was so fun. I hadn't to watch the two of them scramble.
Yeah.
And so, but what ends up happening is Holly ends up going home here. So But they definitely, I feel like Chase and Holly are trying to get Sash out
Yeah.
here, and they're definitely saying, "Oh, look at all the people that like Sash on the jury."
Yeah.
And then Sash kind of makes the point of, "Hey, maybe we should go. We should go for Chase or Holly."
Yeah. So I just think it's funny because you have Sash and Chase acting like they weren't going to vote Fabio out if he didn't win the immunity, like especially Sash. He's really lying badly about this.
Mm-hmm.
And
so what ends up happening is Fabio and Chase end up coming together and like, all right, which way are we going? Are we going with Holly or are we going with Sash?
yeah.
And they end up going with Sash and voting Holly out.
Yeah. So it was the right move, I think.
It was the right move, yeah.
Because
I would have
Fabio-
loved to have seen a final tribal was Fabio, Chase, and Holly.
It would have been decent. I think that Fabio still would win because I think Chase might
I think
get.
Chase comes in third,
He would. I think Chase gets 1 vote and Holly gets
like 3.
3
And
votes. Fabio
gets 5.
5. Yeah, maybe 4-2-2.
Could be that. There's 9 jurors.
9. So maybe
4-3-2
or 3-2. Yeah,
or
Or
5-2-2.
5-2-2. Yeah, I was gonna say that 5-2-2 because I think that some of the people that voted for Chase might have voted for Holly, but I think that the people that voted for Fabio were pretty locked in to vote for him no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of this final tribal council? Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. It wasn't bad. But actually, well, let me rephrase that. I think this is one of the worst final threes ever.
Oh, it's a horrible final 3.
And we touched on this when we were talking to Freeland the other day, that we were trying to think of other final threes that might have been this bad, and we couldn't think of any.
This is the worst one. And
I remembered the one that I was blanked on the other day. I was thinking Gabon.
yeah,
but I think this one's worse.
It's debatable for me. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. We'll make.
When we get to Gabon, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. But anyways, we both think Fabio deserved this win.
Yeah.
As much as he didn't play a great game, Sash was a complete snake. He had no chance of ever winning. And Chase was way too paranoid and way too wishy-washy and flip-floppy, I think. I mean, some people had a good connection with him, but I don't think his social game was very strong outside the people he wasn't with either. Fabio had a good social game with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Just the only thing was Fabio had kind of no clue what was going on half the time. And Chase and Sash definitely try to make that point, especially when they realize like, oh, all these people like Fabio. Like, oh, wait, hold on. Fabio didn't do anything. Like, yeah, but you two are Sash, you're a snake. And Chase, you're a bit of a dick.
Yeah, so mortgage gate, you want to talk about that? Do you know about that?
Yeah.
So what do you think the truth is to this? Let me just explain it real quick for people listening that might not know about it. So I think it was maybe final 6 when Jane was voted out, maybe before that, I'm not sure. But apparently Sash told Jane that he would pay for her mortgage if she voted for him to win at the end. And there's a rumor going out there that the jury wasn't allowed to even vote for Sash.
I don't know how much of that is true, but I also don't know if Sash was getting any votes anyway. But
yeah, I see. That's the thing. I don't think he was getting votes either way, so it didn't matter. But it is interesting. We've never had that happen before, and it's completely against the rules of the game to bribe, basically, for jury votes.
Yeah, but I think something would have happened in the game had there not been a double quit. So
yeah,
with the double quit, they're like, all right, we can't remove people now from the game. So when Jane was going home, they're like, all right, fine. Jane goes home here, and we know Sash isn't winning anything.
Yeah. All right. Let's give some awards out. Best pre-merge boot. Tough.
I really think Jill was a good player.
I was gonna say Jill, maybe by default, because she was the only one I think was any bit of a decent player that went before the merge.
Yeah.
And she was the last boot before the merge. She kind of just got swap screwed.
I did like Kelly B too, but
Yeah, I really liked Kelly B. She wasn't as good of a player, but
she definitely got a raw deal too.
yeah, she was nice lady, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a good attitude the whole time.
Yeah, especially after being picked on by Nyanka the entire time.
Yeah. All right, MVP of this season.
Brenda.
All right, I'm going a different route. I'm going to say Holly because I don't think Brenda or Marty made it far enough for me to give them MVP.
Yeah, you're probably right, but
They
I'm
played
just
it
trying to
too strong too early. So I'll say the best non-winner with a close enough chance of winning was
Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Can't argue with you there.
All right, and we're gonna have the same winner rankings on this, right?
Fabio's at the bottom.
Fabio's last. Whether he's gonna stay at last for very long, who knows?
We'll see, but he's worse than Kim, Earl, Rob, and Brian.
Yeah, that's our order. I think we're
by far.
Yeah, he's easily the worst winner of that bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Not even close. Not even close.
Well, you're talking about 4 of one of the more dominant games of people who's played, and Fabio is kind of considered a bottom 5 winner of all time.
Yeah. So are you going to re-rank this season, or are you going to keep it where you had it? So what did you have it at going in?
We both had it at 36 going in.
Both did. But you had Fiji ahead and I had Fiji behind.
Yes.
All right, so this is below Fiji now for me.
I'd leave my rankings how it is.
Okay. So out of the seasons we've covered, give me your list.
Fiji, Nicaragua, One World, Thailand, Redemption Island.
All right, so I will say Fiji, Nicaragua, One World, Redemption Island, and then Thailand. So the only thing we have different right now is the last 2 are flopped. But our next few episodes, we're going to have, I think, a lot more differing points of view on, especially the one a couple weeks from now. But
yeah,
there's some good stuff coming up. We've been through the toughest stretch, so
yeah, it can only maybe it can only get better.
Yeah, for me it can only get better.
Not for me. Well, that kind of wraps up the season.
Yeah, and I mean, there's, like I said, there's some redeeming qualities to me, and that's that there's a little bit of a comedic element to it, just because of how bad some of these players are.
It's a poor man's Gabon.
Yeah, it is. And I remember at the time, coming off of winners at our Heroes versus Villains, I mean, I thought, how could there possibly be a season that is ever worse than this? And then this is Thailand's in distant memory at that point. And then we have 22, 23, and 24, which weren't very strong also. So this just started the dark ages of Survivor, and literally 3 of our worst 5 seasons are in a 4-period span. So
yeah,
it just goes to show you. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to our next one. I know you're not as much, but neither of us have it ranked that highly. But I mean, there's definitely more week-to-week quality episodes in this upcoming season than
there's kind of one overarching thing of why I totally dislike this next season we're getting to.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way for me. There's 1 or 2 things I really don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But we will get into that, and next week we are also going to have our second guest on, so we're going to do something similar to what we did with Vreeland, with someone else who I'll tell you will definitely bring it to the podcast.
We're definitely happy to have them.
Yeah, he's not going to hold anything back. It's going to be interesting.
It'll be interesting. You're going to have to watch it.
Yeah, it'll be fun for sure. And then I guess next week around this time, we'll probably get back into it with our
35th season.
35th ranked season.
Mhm.
All right. Well, with that, I think we are good.
Yep. So we'll see you guys later.
See you next week.